Ducati is a brand that never fails to inspire. The iconic Italian firm is best known for its high performance, high-end and highly sought after luxury superbikes. And yet, the most important model in its history was nothing more than a parts bin special. In many ways, the Monster 900 shouldn't have been a success, but more than 30 years later, it's the longest running name in the brand's history. And some will tell you it's the bike that saved Ducati. But why and how? That's what I'm hoping to find out. Let's get to it. The Monster 900 was introduced in 1992 at the Cologne Motorcycle Show as a way to open up the brand to a broader audience. Using existing components and a minimalist philosophy, designer Miguel Galuzzi created a bike that was affordable, easy to ride and full of Ducati heritage. The Monster's immediate success helped popularise the naked genre and helped breathe new life into the Italian company, with many people agreeing that it helped pull Ducati from the jaws of financial ruin. But to understand why the original Monster is so integral to the Italian firm's history, first let's take a look at what it's become. This is the 2024 Ducati Monster SP. It's a vastly different machine to the original 900, but the modus operandi is still very much the same. It's a saddle, a fuel tank, two wheels, an engine and a handlebar, and as Galuzzi himself once said, that's all you really need. The current Monster lineup includes 4 models, with the SP sitting above the base spec Monster and the Monster Plus, and below the limited edition Monster Senna. The SP checks in at 23,400 right away, which is about 3.5k more than the base spec Monster, with the price increase justified by high-spec, sports-focused equipment. The engine is the tried and true 937cc Testastretta V-twin, and while the tubular steel trellis frame of the original is now gone, the alloy front frame of the current version is still lightweight and agile, with the SP weighing just 177 kilograms wet. You only have to take one look at the current Monster to realise it's a beautifully simple machine, much like the original. But this is a modern bike after all, and it does have a few little tricks up its sleeve. The Monster SP comes standard with a 4.3-inch colour TFT display, multiple ride modes, cornering ABS, traction, wheelie and launch control, and a quick shifter. All features that would have been inconceivable back in 1992. But despite the modern tech, the Monster SP still very much retains the rebellious and outlaw spirit of the 32-year-old original. It's lightweight, affordable and accessible to a wide range of riders. But it still begs the question, how has this simple concept continued to stay relevant for more than 3 decades? And how exactly did it save Ducati? I'm on my way to Gisborne in Victoria to meet with Damien Kingsbury, a former motorcycle journalist, university professor, and a rusted-on Ducati enthusiast. Damien is the owner of not one but 2 original Monster 900s, and there is perhaps no one better placed to help us understand why this model is so important to Ducati's history. Damien, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, Dylan. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for coming down.
My pleasure.
I guess to start with, tell us a little bit about your motorcycling background. Where did it all start for you? And I guess, where did you first cross paths with Ducati as a brand?
I started riding in the late 60s as a young teenager, and I came across my first Ducatis around 73, 74. Back in the days when they were nice to look at, but not quite so reliable.
What is it about the brand that really attracts you to Ducati?
The brand has always had a commitment to racing, and I think that's always flowed through to its road bikes. So even with the Monsters, although they've got tamer motors, the chassis are related to the race bikes. And you feel that, it comes through. I mean, when you ride them, when you push them hard, they just feel natural. They feel like they're a good thing to go fast on, and it's a joy, it's a real pleasure. I just thought, yeah, these are good things, but I was still not convinced at the time about the issues of reliability, spare parts. I mean, Ducati as a company in Australia didn't exist back then.
Right.
So it was early days, but they held a real appeal. There was a certain magic about them. And then a bit later on, I decided to take the plunge. I got a 916, which is just a glorious bike in its own right.
So obviously the Monster arrived in the early 90s. What position was Ducati in at that time, you know, both culturally and financially?
Well, culturally, the company had a commitment always to racing, and that seemed to be its principal focus. So it made road bikes, but look, it never made money. The company never made money, and nearly all of its bikes sold at a loss.
Yeah, wow.
So it just went from one financial disaster to another up until the 90s, and then finally they hit on the Monster, and they turned the corner, and Ducati became the beginning of the company that it is today.
And what was so special about those early Monsters? I mean, we know that it was a new concept for the brands. Like, what was it that made that bike so successful?
There are a few things. The first was the development costs were zero. Miguel Galuzzi, the designer, took the 851 chassis, which they already had on stock, and the 900 SS motor, which they already had, put them together, bang, really simple development. And it worked. The management at Ducati were not convinced initially. They said, well, it's not really our style, we don't know, the public won't like it. So they showed it at a big motorcycle show, International Motorcycle Show. Everybody went crazy, and the bike sold its socks off. It literally saved the company. They made a profit on every bike for the first time in their history. More than half of their sales were Monsters for many years. And it just gave a foundation to the company so they could produce other bikes. They could play with 916s and 996s and so on. They could go out racing and do all of the fun stuff.
For sure.
But they had an income stream. For the first time in their history, they had a solid income stream from one of their models. So it just put a financial floor underneath the company and allowed it to develop into what we have today.
Obviously, some of the attributes of the Monster, it's affordable, it's easy to ride, relatively speaking, accessible to a wide range of riders. Are they the things that make this bike so popular with the everyday rider?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I think that the brand has some cachet.
For sure.
So a lot of people look at it and say, oh, it's a Ducati. And particularly in Europe, that had a big impact. It is an accessible bike, lightweight, grunty, easy to ride. You can commute on it. For the first time in Ducati's history, they made a bike you could commute on.
Right.
You could also take it up into the hills and carve up mountains. And the chassis was just magic in those circumstances. Made enough power, enough accessible power. And if you were brave, you could even throw a saddlebag on it and go for a longer trip.
Right. You obviously owned a few Monsters. We've got one right here, but how did you come to own your first Monster, and how did that come about?
I had a couple of Ducatis by that stage, and I remembered riding them around 94, 95 when they first came to Australia. And I just thought, no, I really want one. They were good fun. I mean, I just loved riding them. And so I hunted around. I found a 95 Monster, and I had that for quite a while. And then this one came up. This is a 94, so this is the first intake of Monsters into the country.
Right.
It's a great bike. It was owned by a mechanic, had a fresh engine in it, and I just thought, bang, grab that.
So obviously we've got the new Monster here as well. Just visually and going by the spec sheet, do you think the new Monster maintains the same spirit that the original Monster had all those years ago?
Yeah. The new Monsters obviously are much more developed. I mean, they're 21st century technology, electronics and so on. But the basicness of the design, the accessibility, the comfort of riding them, the flickability, the handling, the L-twin, all of that's still there. So the essential monsterness, if you like, is absolutely still intact. These are much more developed. I mean, It's got a Testastretta motor, makes more power, nicer power, frankly, an electronic suite, and of course, with this particular one, it's got an upgraded suspension package.
For sure. It probably says it in the name Monster. I guess there's a kind of a rebellious spirit to it as well, a little bit, which probably steps outside of Ducati's race heritage. Do you agree with that? And is that something that shines through?
Yeah, I think the name originated when the Ducati management looked at Galuzzi's first Monster,
Right.
And they said, Il Mostro, it's a monster. What is this thing? And that's the name. That's how it got its name. It's stuck. But it's an emblematic name. It's really, when you talk about a Monster now, people know that it means a range of bikes, different capacities, but one essential idea: simplicity, fun, accessibility, and Ducati.
And obviously, the Monster is now one of the longest running, I think it may be the longest running name in Ducati's lineup. Do you see this sticking around for another 30, 40 years?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the Street Fighter has stolen some of its thunder. So when you think about what is the Monster, it's certainly got years left in it. At some point, they'll probably retire the name. But again, in the future, it could come back again.
For sure.
In the same way that Triumph has resurrected Bonneville. It becomes an iconic name.
For sure.
And something that people remember. So the name's probably going to stick around for some time. I hope the basic idea of the bike does too, because you know they're such good fun, and we all need fun motorbikes.
For sure, absolutely. Well, Damien, I think you've just about inspired me to get out on some twisties and put this new Monster to the test. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll
thanks, Dylan.
Catch up soon. And so, with a newfound appreciation for the importance of the original Monster 900, I think it's time to see if the current version lives up to the legacy. The first thing that's immediately obvious about the Monster SP is how raw it is. It really does feel just like a pure bare bones motorcycle, a little bit punk rock, and I absolutely love it. Like the original, the new version directs your focus to the lively engine and agile chassis. It is minimal, distraction-free, and incredibly simple to ride. At its core, it's a bike for pure riders, plain and simple. Forget fairings and aerodynamics and complex bodywork, this is all you need, an engine, a frame and two wheels. I heard someone else say that the Monster's like a super motard, and I do kind of agree with that. It really is dirt bike-like in the way you can throw it around and really use that power and torque freely without too much thought. Even the TFT display is small and slight enough that it doesn't demand your attention. It's there if you need it, but you never feel compelled to use it as on some other bikes. Honestly, this is about as much fun as you can have on a motorcycle. You can keep your 916s, your Desmos, your V4s, because this is really all the motorcycle I need or want. In some ways, the Monster is the least Ducati-like model in the Italian firm's range, and that's exactly why it's persisted for more than 3 decades. Because as much as we all love to drool over a Panigale, the truth of the matter is that most of us are much better suited to a Monster. Fast, cheap, easy to ride and beautifully simple, those are the things that have made the Monster one of the most loved models of the last 30 years. And that is why the Monster has saved Ducati. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments below what you think of the Ducati Monster. Do you think this was Ducati's saviour? Tell us what you think.